It's 12:05 in the afternoon here on WEJF 90.3 FM, the home of Helping Seniors of Brevard, heard every Wednesday afternoon. Let's get things underway right now. The host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director of the organization as well, Kerry Fink, is here. Kerry, good to see you. People always like that music. I always notice that they dance a little bit to that, dance in their chairs. We could probably operate a ballroom here or something like that.
I am all for that, John. You know, it's as you know, we called it the music of your life, and literally, we are just back from the second annual Helping Seniors Foundation Cruise, which was great fun, great success. Everybody is now looking forward to the third annual, which is coming up in October. But I got to tell you, we had Lori, I'd like to teach the world to sing, Harper on board, and her husband, Mike, who's a great pianist, and their son is a tremendous bass player. And I had never heard of an instrument called a ukulele bass. Have you, John? Did you know?
Ukulele bass?
Yeah, so it looks like a ukulele, but you string it up with bass strings, and it's kind of like mimics the sound of an upright bass. And so they were playing all that kind of music throughout the ship. Everybody loved it. It was great. It was a lot of fun. But a ukulele bass, I learned something new.
I'll have to check that out.
I didn't know such a thing existed.
A friend of ours is big into ukuleles, but she's never mentioned a bass ukulele.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Maybe I'll impress her by bringing that up to her.
Well, there's photos of it out on Facebook, but it looks like a ukulele, you know, the kind that they play out in Hawaii or whatever, but this one was designed to sound like an upright bass. So it was a lot of fun, but it's always great with the good music. And thank you to everybody who came along on both the 2-night version and the 7-night version. And then a lot of people stayed over and just did the full 9 nights with us. And we had a great time on MSC with the Meraviglia, and Chris and Betty from the Helping Seniors Travel Club did a great job. But here we are. Today is Wednesday. It's lunchtime, and we are gathering around the radio. And we have a gathering actually in the studio because we're excited. This is it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and we have some great folks. And what we're going to talk about today is getting you great information to help you make great decisions so you can enjoy your best senior life. So let me start by welcoming our guests into the studio. I'm going to start with a longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization. She's a registered nurse. She has her own company called Avid Home Care Services, and she personally meets with families when they're trying to figure out what's the best way to take care of getting the right kind of home care. She's also an expert. You have the background of coming out of the OR. You do a lot of work in psychiatric help for seniors and things like that. But you also, on top of all that, you're also an author. I'm talking about Traci Graf with Avid Home Care Services.
You really don't need to say all that.
Well, I think
it's nice. I appreciate it.
I think it's important because as we talk about getting great information, you always want to check out the source, right? Because we all know if you go on the internet and you Google something, everything you read is 100% true, right?
Wrong.
Well, if that wasn't a setup, I don't know what would be. But that's the point. You want to vet out the people that you're asking for help. You want to make sure they really know what they're talking about. Our president and founder, Joe Steckler, from day one, he's talked about helping people make an aging plan. And again, if you're new to this concept, it's really not different than a hurricane plan. Somebody says, make a hurricane plan. It means, what are you going to do if you run into a problem that's going, the hurricane's coming here? It doesn't mean you want a hurricane. It just means you want to be prepared. Aging plan is the same thing. We know that years bring certain issues that might crop up. So why not get ahead of the curve and do that? And so, in fact, we kind of euphemistically have called that getting your ducks in a row. And so we did that pretty much as our theme for last year. We're continuing that into this year, getting your ducks in a row, planning ahead, learning what you need to learn so that you can make a good plan. And then the thing that we really have discovered along the way is, and it's really part of our theme for this year now too, is don't try this on your own. There is so much good help. It may be fun to Google, but you could get yourself in a whole lot of trouble because you just really don't know who's writing what you're reading. And so the reason I took all the time to do the big build-up for Traci, because I wanted you to know she really has the bona fide credentials to know what she's talking about. Same with our next guest in our panel today. She has a company called Simplifying Senior Living. And let me tell you about her. She is not only an expert at helping people find the right place. I think she told me there's like well over 140 assisted livings in this county. And so if somebody makes a decision like, hey, we're going to look at assisted living or try to find a right resource for mom or dad or aunt or uncle or whatever the case may be, where do you start? You start Googling. So everybody, of course, when you look at all the shiny ads, they're always putting their best foot forward, but who's really doing the research to know what's appropriate, what has the right things. Not everybody needs the big swimming pool. Some people need other things. And so figuring all that stuff out right really takes a level of expertise. In fact, she has so much expertise. Her background includes training the executive directors and staff at various assisted livings so that they can make sure they're 100% in compliance. I am talking about Kara Anderson.
Well, thank you, Kerry. I am certainly not going to buy into my own hype, but that was an amazing. You're a great hype man, Kerry. I mean, I feel really good about myself.
You should write our marketing equipment.
I know. I feel good about you, and I feel good about me.
Yep.
And Kerry, I feel like I should have studied up more about your background so that we could have lavished you with, a bit of a resume, because you're a guy who knows, and you know what's going on in the county, and you know what the seniors need. And even beyond that, you're open to people communicating with you what they need so that you can expand your knowledge base a little bit more to provide the information that folks need. So kudos to you too, Kerry.
Well, you're so kind. But really the point of what we're attempting to do is we're trying to get folks to really start thinking a little bit ahead, because what we've covered, every time I sit down with an elder law attorney, and I mean, we have 3 excellent firms that are part of the Helping Seniors Network. And by the way, we're a nonprofit. So I want to kind of get this on the table. As a nonprofit, we exist for no purpose other than getting information into the hands and helping seniors. For 12 years now, we've operated the Helping Seniors information line. That's a free call. Nancy Deerdorf, who herself has 33 years experience as a registered nurse, picks up that phone. Last year, guys, are you ready for this? I just got this number from Nancy last week. 5,384 calls came into the Helping Seniors info line.
That's a lot. That is a lot of calls.
That is almost double what we had the year before. And it's 2 things. One, I guess people are finding out we are here, we're a resource. But the other thing is there's a lot of challenges that seniors are facing. And so what we've learned along the way, while we're here to try to solve a problem at any step of the way, what we really also want to do is get education and information in the hands of seniors so we can all make good decisions. Because, a lot of times these decisions come up like, if you're being discharged from a hospital, now you got to go home with home care, or maybe in some cases you can't even safely go home at all. And now you're making these life-altering decisions with no frame of reference. You're kind of panicked. You don't really have the skill set. That's why you got to call experts. So let me start with you, Traci, and talk a little bit about the process of how you help a family figure out what is the right thing to do, when either they're coming out of a situation like that, or maybe it's just folks are realizing, hey, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, they can't really manage this the way we thought they could on their own.
Well, I'll start by saying that the constant confusion that I hear about is, are services like ours paid by insurance? Mm-hmm. And if not, why not? We get people who call and, we're desperate to get help for mom with showers and things, and we're going to explore if Medicare will pay for it. Medicare will not pay for it.
No.
There's no health insurance that will pay for it. That's why home care is so confusing, even if you are trying to go online and look. Mm-hmm. There's something called skilled nursing home care. And they don't really, if you're just doing a Google search for home care, the agencies are not really differentiated so that a layperson would understand what they're looking for. Uh-huh. So skilled nursing home care comes when you've had a change in diagnosis, a change in medication, or you've been in the hospital. It's limited. It lasts about 30 days. And then, there's a series of people who come. There's a nurse, a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, stuff like that. That is all paid for by health insurance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What I found shocking when I was working in that side of home care was that there was no one to just come out and give someone a shower.
Right.
And working in skilled nursing home care, I saw lots of people who went in and out of the hospital repeatedly for things like UTIs. And it's obvious as the nurse, as I'm coming to see them for the third episode, that they're not showering. And that's where the problem is. And even a couple showers a week would help.
Yeah.
And, there's a number of reasons why seniors don't want to shower. Number one, they're afraid they're going to fall.
Sure.
Number one thing. Especially if they live alone. We have a lot of people who are willing to pay for that hour just to have somebody stand outside the shower and make sure that they don't fall when they're in there. So this side of home care, where we can help with things like bathing, dressing, showering, meals, light housekeeping, taking them for walks, things like that, transportation, is not paid for by insurance.
No.
Unless you have a long-term care policy, which really less and less people have them. They're very expensive. And I find a lot of people in their 90s who don't want to use it yet. And literally, I'll say to them, what are you waiting for?
Sure.
Like, how much longer, very honestly, even in the great shape you are, how much longer can you really live? And if you die, the insurance company gets all that money you paid into it.
Yeah, that's true.
For your entire lives,
Yeah.
your husband and you. So it's very hard to get people to agree to use it. And they all have sort of these elimination periods, 30, 60, 90 days.
Right.
And they have to get through that first before they start getting reimbursed for their policy. But, if you don't start it, it doesn't. And I've seen all sorts of things happen where, one person in the couple already had started their claim, and then the part of the couple that hasn't started their claim goes in the hospital with an emergency.
Oh, wow.
So now we need two things. We need 24/7 care at home for the husband, and when she comes home, she's going to need help.
Yeah.
And her policy hasn't kicked in yet, despite the fact that she's 96.
Wow.
So, it's just stuff like that. But we do help people navigate through all that. And I'm not, I don't ever go into a client's home and, well, I shouldn't say ever, but for the most part, I don't go into a client's home and say, you have to have this many hours. If I make statements like that, it's because I really believe that they're asking, that they need more help. And
Right.
and not just a little, they drastically need more help than they're asking for. And then I'll say that. But for the most part, we're willing to go along with the flow. We know that nobody has an endless source of income to pay for this.
Right.
And I don't see where it benefits me or senior citizens in this county to force hourly minimums on people, because, like I say to some of my staff a lot, what happens to the 94-year-old who needs help but has now run out of money? Because for the last 6-7 years, we've enforced a 4 or 6 hour minimum on them.
Right.
I don't see where that helps me or them. So, I am a nurse first and a businesswoman second, and I guess that's kind of why I feel that way.
Yeah.
And Avid was born. I mean, we are going strong at year 5. We are not a chain or a franchise. I have no corporate support. We've come through the COVID pandemic without any problems.
Yep.
The only thing I can say is that business is booming and I need staff.
Right. Well, we've talked about this so often. I remember having this conversation with a lady by the name of Rachel McLean. She's the case manager, director of case management for the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. And we had this conversation because we were filming a TV show, and I was asking her, I said, most of us, our introduction to home care, case management, any of this comes because mom or dad is in the hospital, and somebody called a case manager from the hospital walks in and says, okay, where do you want mom to go now? Can't go home. And so now you're like, what? What do I do with this? I don't know what this means. This is new for me. How do I navigate this? I don't know anything. This is Joe's whole point about getting the aging plan, so that at least you've had some conversations and you've begun this. But where I wanted to get to on this was to kind of drive this point home is like, we don't know. They say, okay, somebody from home health is going to come in and help mom. We don't even know what that means.
Is that skilled nursing?
Right.
Is that somebody like me? And I'll tell you something else. Other than things that are insurance driven, like if you're in a Health First hospital, they're going to send you, if you have Health First Medicare, to Health First Home Care. But other than situations like that, the discharge planners or case managers cannot legally suggest an agency.
No, I remember this very, very vividly because in the case with my mom, it was like, she's got to go to a skilled rehab facility. Here's a book. You figure out. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never done this before.
And I'll say this. I'm very thankful that I am on some of the case managers' discharge lists that they give patients to pick a home care agency, but they have me mixed in with skilled nursing agencies. And they don't tell the patient, and it doesn't differentiate it on the paper.
Who does what?
Who does what? This is covered by insurance. This is not. This is limited. This is not.
Yeah.
So I mean, I write article after article after article trying to clear this up, and I talk about it constantly, and we still constantly get phone calls.
Kerry, you must hear this all the time. People are calling you up. They know they've got to make a change for mom or dad. It's not working the way it's been working, and something's got to change. When they call you, you must get that same deer in the headlights kind of look a lot from the folks.
Well, yeah, I feel much better. It's not just me that's getting these phone calls where folks are just so confused. I thought it was me.
No.
So good.
And I hate to tell you,
Yeah.
I'd rather send them, any of them with a question about assisted living, right to you.
Please do.
Because I don't want to answer any of those questions.
Any question. It really, right now with in the climate that we're in with the staffing issues and, assisted living is just changing. The landscape is changing every day, what with new communities that come in and what they do and what they don't do, what they're licensed to do and what they choose to do according to their license. Because just because they're licensed to do a particular service doesn't mean that they have to. So understanding who's truly age in place and who's more, I like to call it assisted living light, as long as you don't need a whole lot of service, they would be a great option for you. But as far as aging in place, once your needs increase, if that's okay with you to move again, then, hey, I'll show you. But I really want to understand your goals and, of course, your budget because, as you mentioned, money doesn't grow on trees. We've all heard that our entire life, I think, from our parents and beyond. And that is certainly true in your older years. At 80 and 90, you are not going out and getting a part-time job to subsidize some of these healthcare costs. So understanding what assisted living is going to meet your needs for the longest period of time. And even now, it's really hard to find an assisted living that's going to meet it potentially through end of life because as your care needs change, their ability to care for you may change, and then additionally your financial situation may change. So there's so many variables in that to try and navigate that alone without understanding, just the initial picture of what assisted living is. I can understand because I get it all the time. It's just incredibly confusing, and calling a 1-800 nationally recognized company that will send you a list. I mean, if all you want is a list, I would love to send you a list. It gives you
you don't want a list.
Yeah, it gives you absolutely no information.
No.
You'll get a list of every option available in the county, which helps you absolutely none. So working with local providers who are very familiar with Brevard County specifically, and individuals of substance who will take it upon themselves to help you and walk you through the process. And I know a lot of folks who do it without any financial gain to themselves. They just want to ensure that seniors are getting the best possible information, because when I give you a good referral and I help with somebody to become a client of yours, I'm helping to make the healthcare reputation overall better. And that's what we need, is we need some reputation remediation in some cases.
Teamwork.
Where people have had bad experiences, be it with a doctor or a hospital, and they're all individual and, everybody has their own experiences, but we need to do a little bit of reputation repair when it comes to giving people meaningful information that's actually helpful and gets them the results that they need. Maybe not what they want, but what they need, and get them pointed in the right direction.
You know what you guys are both talking about, I think it's so important. One thing I want to point out, and this was about this local thing that you both just mentioned. With helping seniors, we are 100% local. 100% local to Brevard County. So Joe, as you know, Joe Steckler, I'm talking about, our president and founder, he created, after he retired successfully as a captain in the U.S. Navy, where his last command was running the retirement home that the Navy has in Gulfport. He and his wife retired to Satellite Beach. Joe can't stay retired, so he goes to work with the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation and creates this thing to this day, serving seniors in our county in 3 different locations. Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation has those things, and they named him after him, Joe's Club. And so that is a big resource. But I remember meeting Joe literally at the time he was starting helping seniors. So while we've been doing this for 12 years, it must be like 13 years ago when he was dreaming this up. And he said, Kerry, what I've learned is people have more challenges as seniors than just simply the memory care. A lot of people, their memory is okay, but they're still fighting all these other battles. We got something to do something about that. And his vision was to create this local community, because I just heard both of you mentioned this. I'm talking about Kara Anderson with Simplifying Senior Living, who helps folks find the right place to live. And I heard the same from Traci Graf, registered nurse and owner of Avid Home Care Services, who provides services in the home, is that both of your companies are 100% local. So you're right here. You can talk to the owner. You guys are right here. And I'm talking about particularly with like people who are experts. We have 3 different experts on Medicare insurance. They're independent agents, so they're not beholden to one particular company. They really treasure helping a senior find the right match. And everybody who is local and has a heart for local always gets concerned about these ads on TV. Call 1-800 and we'll get you set up. Because now you're talking to a phone center in Omaha, just making that up, and they're going to tell you, well, what's the difference between Beachside and Titusville? It looks pretty close when you look on a map from Omaha, right?
Right.
Right. And absolutely. And one thing that I really love, particularly about your programs here on the radio, Kerry, is that you can go back on Facebook, you can go back on the website, and you can listen to programs. And your program with William A. Johnson, on, I believe it was the 4th of this month, I've listened to that twice, because I think it is such important information to not just have somebody who's a local provider, but also somebody who can walk you through. On that particular program, you were talking about contracts.
Oh, yes.
Residency agreements. You know, that is a huge thing when families sit down, sometimes in crisis. They're given a big old packet of paperwork, probably to take home and fill out in advance, if not the day of an admission, and they're expected to read through it, absorb it, understand it, and sign to it. And that's one of the benefits of having somebody like myself or like Traci who have experience. We're able to talk you through the specifics of those situations. Somebody from a 1-800 number is not going to sit with you and read through a contract.
No, they may care, but they're caring from a distance. It's like getting a long-distance letter. So we're getting close into our mid-show break. I want to make sure I give, just before we get there, Traci Graf, Avid Home Care Services. If somebody has questions, want to reach you about getting help or just questions in general, how do they reach you? So they're going to call you?
At 321-392-3400.
And Kara Anderson, Simplifying Senior Living.
I would love for you to give me a call at 321-327-2917, and we're always available at simplifyingseniorliving.com.
Okay, more coming up. Stay tuned for the second half.
12:33 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's go back to more of the program right now with your host and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Hey, Kerry.
Thanks, John Harper, and welcome back to the second half of our weekly Wednesday lunchtime gathering right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF, and a hello to those who also join us online, WEJF.net. And those who will catch this program later on podcast form, wherever you find podcasts. That could be Apple, iTunes, Amazon, hey, Alexa, wherever you get a podcast, look for Helping Seniors. And on top of that, as our guest Kara Anderson with Simplifying Senior Living mentioned in the last part of the program, we put everything out on our Facebook page, our YouTube page, and also our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. So you can go in and actually search by topic. If something, you're interested in assisted living, you can search by that. If you're interested in home care, you like our other guest today in the studio, Traci Graf, registered nurse with Avid Home Care, can tell you about. We can help answer a lot of questions. It makes sense for you to do some homework. Take the time to learn a little bit. Get to know these people. So like you see them on the TV shows we do or listen to them on the radio, you'll get a sense real quick that they are for real, that they know what they're doing, and B, that they have a real compassion for seniors. We're talking in the first half of the show about the fact that there are resources. If you Google, sometimes it comes up at the top of your search page, for somebody that will help you find, quote, a place for your mom or dad, or, find some help in the home. But they don't really guide you because, number one, they don't know what you're doing. And number two, like we were joking about, they could be in a call center in Des Moines, Iowa. I don't know. And so when you talk to Traci Graf with Avid Home Care, she's 100% local, just like Helping Seniors. Or when you talk to Kara Anderson of Simplifying Senior Living, she's 100% local. You guys have your ear to the ground. You know what's going on. You understand what's happening with different parts of the equation, because you guys are all active in various organizations that are really focused on senior wellness. And, we talked about that. There's that old saw that says, it takes a village to raise a child. But I really think it takes a village to take care of seniors the right way. So, Kara, welcome back to the show. I wanted to ask you to kind of maybe kick off the talk by talking a little bit about your experience of guiding people through, because they know they're gonna try to do something because it's just not working what they're doing. And how do you sit down with a family and work them through all these questions?
That's an excellent question, Kerry. And I think every situation, while everything may be a little bit different, their circumstances are different, I always ask, what are their goals? Mm-hmm. Are their goals to keep mom or dad or parents at home? And if so, what are the financials available to support that? How many hours do they think that they need right now? What do they think that looks like? And then we kind of walk on from there. Sometimes I have folks call me and they're ready for mom or dad to go to assisted living. They just have no idea how to pay for it because perhaps they went and toured one that a friend had recommended and it's just way out of their budget. And now they're very discouraged and they think that maybe a nursing home is the only option. Or they call me and they say, my mom has to go to a nursing home because she's not appropriate for assisted living. And when I ask a few clarifying questions, it's not that mom's not appropriate for assisted living. It's just the assisted living that she called initially and talked about her mom declined to provide that type of care, which they're allowed to do. They all are able to operate within the scope of their license according to their own policies, however they choose. They do have to put that in the contract, speaking of contracts, by the way, if they do have limitations according to what the state allows them to do. But when you have proper guidance and somebody who's able to make recommendations based on your situation and what your goals are, you can narrow down a list of, as you said, over 140 different assisted living facilities, really down to a very reasonable 3 or 4. And not only does it save time, it saves frustration. It's exhausting for the senior to kind of wrap their mind around that whole process. So when the adult child is walking into the conversation with their parent who probably doesn't want to go to assisted living, and the adult child hasn't quite wrapped their arms around that whole situation, it's just a difficult conversation. So having a conversation with somebody who knows and is able to share valid information, it's really reassuring to the senior to hear it, and for their adult child to have a little bit more confidence in the direction that they're going.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, I also, the thought that came up to me over the break was like, one of the things that you really want to do is you want to have a sense that that you're getting the right expert for the right job. So here's what I mean by that. Joe's talked about elements of care. It's like, don't overspend. Get what you need for the stage that you're at. So for example, when you go and you want help on figuring out the right place for mom, you're going to get an expert. when you need help with home health, whether it be in an assisted living environment or in your own home, you're going to go to an expert, kind of like where we are with Traci Graf and Avid. And I want to kind of drive this point home by saying, like, because I want to talk about this for a minute. So Traci just went through a hip replacement. So you want to go not to a general physician and say, "Can you replace my hip?" You don't want to go to a cardiologist and say, "Can you help me replace my hip?" You want to go to an expert, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. But just use that as an example, Traci, like of your own experience.
Well, I have to say I did find my surgeon by Googling, but
Oh, there goes the whole premise of the show.
Traci, you're killing
I'm
us.
sorry.
Come on.
I'm sorry. But I'm very good at Googling, and I made a whole trail so anyway, I have had both, I'm 52, I've had both knees in the last year and a half. I've had both knees replaced and a left hip replacement that I just had on December 21st.
You're moving great.
As I demonstrated for you all, you can't tell which hip I just had replaced.
Right.
I can't say enough about my surgeon. His name is Ronald Hudanich. It's Hudanich. He's with Greater Orlando Orthopedics. He has 2 partners there. But Dr. Hudanich is not only, and I've worked in the OR 16 years, he is not only one of the most, if not the most amazing surgeon I've ever seen. He's also an amazing guy. Mm-hmm. He is a super nice guy. He's become my friend. He's a super important part of my healthcare team. And I think that his approach to patients like that makes all the difference. And when it comes to senior citizens, a lot of them don't want to travel outside of Brevard County. Sorry, but he is an Oviedo. And I do recommend to people all the time that it's worth the trip because he's doing things differently than anyone out here is doing.
Well, but again, kind of like dragging us back on the point of this is that, so you have expertise as a registered nurse. When you're Googling, you're not Googling like if Kerry Fink was Googling, because I wouldn't know where to begin. But the point is, like, you made it your purpose to make sure you got the right person. You weren't calling a podiatrist saying, "I've got some pain in my hip." You knew where to go to solve the problem. And that's the point that I really want us all to get to, is call an expert. We say don't try this on your own. So you may start with a little bit of Googling. It may leave you more confused than where you started.
And I love, Traci, I love how you use he's part of my healthcare team.
That's literally how
that
it
is,
makes me feel.
That is such a fantastic concept. And Dr. Dennis McCullough has a great book. It's called Your Mother, My Mother, or My Mother, Your Mother, one or the other. But he talks all about the circle of concern, and that you need individuals in your circle of concern who you trust, who you can speak to in times of need. When you develop these circles of care and you develop these care teams, then when you go into a crisis, it's so much easier to reach out because they know you when you're not in a crisis.
Right.
They know you when you're at your best.
That's good.
So those are the folks that you want kind of on your side. And I'd be happy to be on anybody's circle of concern and be on their team just on a good day, so that when the not so good days come, that you have people you can rely on to give you the advice and the direction that you need.
Well, that's the thing is, the problem with a crisis by definition is it puts you under a ridiculous amount of time pressure. The very fact that it's a crisis means something has to be solved within a certain period of time. So even if you're brilliant, that's very stressful. And even if you know the subject matter, that's still very stressful. Right. But if you're new to the subject matter, you're kind of emotionally conflicted, all going on at the same time, it's very difficult to make a wise decision under that. And that's why we titled today's program, Getting Great Information, or Good Information. You can choose your adjective. But getting good or great information to help you make good or great decisions is so important because we talked about it. We get calls. A lot of times we get calls on the Senior Information Helpline for people who have no resources whatsoever. That's kind of evident. In fact, as a charity, we rely on people who have resources to help us sustain so we can help people who don't. So that's obvious. But a lot of times we'll get calls from people who have plenty of resources. They just don't know where to begin. So, in fact, I would call those the extreme intelligent ones because, they're smart enough to realize what they don't know and where they need to get some help to shore that up. And so what I mean by that is you could have all the money in the world, but if you don't know who to call, and think about how many people are moving to Florida every month. So they don't have like this history, like, oh, this is who you call for that. Or people who are snowbirds that are maybe just not in the community all the time, same issue. Or people who are just now aging up to the point where this becomes relevant for them. They don't have the background. No. And then, the other thing we talk about is you may have been a senior and you've spent your entire life in Brevard County, and so you think you know everybody, but the problem is new doctors are moving in, new businesses are moving in. There may be better things out there, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
In fact, Nancy has this expression. I'm talking about Nancy Deerdorf, our senior information. She's the operations director, but she handles that senior information helpline. She says, how do you know what you don't know?
Right. Well, I know one of the things that I like to do with my clients is, I do all my own client admissions, and there's reasons for that. Mm-hmm. Some people, there's a lot of close, direct supervision or communication with me, the family, the staff, the client, whatever needs to be done to sort of stabilize the situation.
Right.
And then I tend to back off, but that trust has been built.
Right.
And now that client knows that if there's a crisis or there's a problem or there's a question, they can call me. Yeah. And they trust that I will, at the very least, direct them in the right direction.
Right.
And I think that's very valuable because, we still have some clients who sort of try to do things on their own without asking any advice, and they typically end up in situations that need a lot of cleanup.
Yeah.
After it's happened. So I prefer, and I really try to advocate to our clients that we do what's called case management for no cost. Care management is called it because it's not charged by Medicare. But the bottom line is keeping you out of the hospital. We want to keep you out of the hospital. It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit us. The hospitals are already overloaded. It's just not something that we strive to fix if we can.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask everybody who's listening, make sure you have a pencil or pen and something to jot some things down on, because I'm going to ask both of our guests in the studio to share again their contact information so that if something that we've talked about makes sense, or you want to dig a little deeper, or ideally you want to get some more information on how you get the best help at home or the best help in identifying a good place to live, we can talk about that. But then we're going to shift to gear, and we're going to talk a little about the Senior Resource Center events that are coming up. And we're so excited. This is part of an expansion program that we're doing in 2023. And Kara Anderson is kind enough to volunteer her time to help us get this going. But before we jump into that, I wanted to give you a second to grab, something that you could jot this information down. But let's start with Traci Graf, registered nurse, Avid Home Care Services. So if somebody has questions, you're the one that they meet with. You come out and do the assessment and figure out all of that.
Yes, I am. I'm kind of picky.
Good.
So, and I have a lot of experience. So I sort of take in a lot of things that maybe a newer nurse may not.
Right.
Environment, needs, things that are not being done. I look around not invasively, but I'll ask to see the bathroom and things like that. So I get a feel for, and I like that I don't ever send staff somewhere that I've already been there. They never go somewhere that I haven't been.
Yeah, that's good on both sides because everybody is well prepared. So how do folks reach you?
They can call us at 321-392-3400. And sometimes we don't answer the phone. The voicemail will pick up. Just go ahead and leave a message and we will call you back. And you'll either hear from myself or my son, Jeff, he is my scheduler. And, we look forward to helping anyone. We answer questions. We come out for consultations. We just want to help people for what they need and not come in with a cookie cutter type We're very flexible with clients.
Wow, and I would say, Kara, as well as I know you, that's how you approach your business the same way. You really care for the people that you're trying to help. They almost become like extended family. So talk about that and how people reach you.
Yeah, they do. We always say we have a little disclaimer in an email that we send Janet, who works with me, and myself, and it always says, you're stuck with us as little or as much as you want. That is our disclaimer to you. We want to know what happened once we start a case, even if we refer it to somebody else because assisted living, independent living, or memory care wasn't appropriate. We still follow up to make sure that somebody was able to answer their questions and help them get resolved to the best of our ability. But I can always be reached at 321-327-2917 or online at simplifyingseniorliving.com, where you'll find a lot of educational blogs. And as Tracy mentioned, it's so hard to determine the difference between skilled home care and private duty home care. And you will find blogs that really spell those things out. I write them myself, and I base that on my 27 years of experience in senior living, 20 of which as an administrator. So I'm very operationally sound in assisted living. And Tracy here has the care side. So we're kind of a power couple, Tracy, when you really look at it.
And oh, were you done?
No, you go right ahead.
I have a new website too.
Good.
Somebody redesigned our website.
Yay.
And all my articles are being posted now in a blog section section of our website. So
it's Avid Home Care.
It's www.avidhomecareservices.com.
Yeah, I probably, as I was trying to hype you guys coming in, I forgot. I should have mentioned, both of you guys are very accomplished authors. In fact, you both regularly contribute into the Helping Seniors newsletter. That's 12 pages of information that we pack in the center section of each edition of Senior Scene magazine. And this is the kind of information that helps you make good decisions. So that's what we're talking about today, making good decisions because you have good information to work with.
Absolutely. And Kerry, if I could just mention that the information on both Tracy's site, my website, that is low pressure. That is, read it when you can. Mm-hmm. You can read it anytime. Nobody is watching you read that. Nobody's tracking your movements. So if there's something that you have a question on, just go ahead and research it and read it and get as much information as you can. It may not be an issue today, but it could be an issue down the road. Just all we can do is put out the information. Tracy and I speak from experience when we write. All we can do is share with you, successful outcomes and successful paths to take in certain situations. So just reading that and being familiar, and at the very, very least, just being strong enough, brave enough, and awkward enough to just reach out for help, because that's what we're here for. We literally sit by our phones every day waiting for people to ask for our help.
When you said that, I was thinking about how important the fact that you guys are local. So when we're saying Google, that's actually the good side of a Google search. When you go directly to somebody's website, you read the article, you get a sense for who they are. You watch one of the TV shows we've done on helping seniors. You hear one of the radio programs. You go, I like what that person's saying. I'm following. I'm tracking with how they're explaining this. Let me give them a call because I still got questions. It's really the best way to do it. And so one of the things that we're doing as an organization, and we have done now for several years, is through the Senior Resource Center of Brevard, we've created a monthly education series. It happens the last Monday of every month. We pledge to keep it 55 minutes. We're going to respect your time. 55 minutes, 10:30 to 11:30 on the last Monday of each month. Now, historically, we've been over at Zon Beachside. That's been our home. They're great friends of ours. They're super supportive. Greg Kennedy and his entire team over there is the best of the best. There's no question. But what we said is this year, at least as we begin, we want to start into see if we can be at a place that's maybe landside. And so our idea is hopefully we expand and we're covering a lot of different locations and trying to bring these near you. But Kerry, you've really stepped up and talk a little bit about what's on tap coming up for the first couple of sessions. Again, the first one, the next one, is the last Monday of this month, Buena Vida. You need to RSVP because there's a lunch involved, right?
That is correct. And honestly, I just took my marching orders from Kerry. He put together a great series agenda. It does mirror the agenda from last year. Last year, getting your ducks in a row. Well, that's great. Lots of information. This year, our speakers are tasked with giving you checklists to follow for each aspect of putting your aging plan in place. So we're really excited. I think Kerry and I are going to run through the series, the plan for the series on January 30th when we meet at Buena Vita Estates. And as Kerry mentioned, it is incredibly important for you to RSVP because those who RSVP will get a takeaway lunch at the end. So if we don't know that you're coming, we can't prepare a meal for you. So we need to know that you're coming. We'd love to know that you're coming to be with us for the educational series on January 30th from 10:30 to 11:30 at Buena Vita Estates, where Kerry and I are going to just do a rundown and welcome you all to the beginning of getting your aging plan started and talking about each month and what will be involved and the speakers involved for the series for the year. I'm pretty pumped about it.
I'm excited about it. And how do you RSVP, you ask? Well, you could call Nancy at area code 321-473-7770. I'm going to say that number again in just a moment. Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, is waiting for your call. Just like you guys were saying, she's there on the Helping Senior information line. That number again, 321-473-7770. And if you're kind of like a do-it-yourself person, you don't mind playing on the internet, you can go to the Helping Seniors of Brevard Facebook page, check out events. You'll see the events. The first 3 events are already listed there. You've done a great job of getting some amazing speakers. I know in February, looking ahead, we're going to have board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson is going to be speaking about your legal checklist. And then, if I'm remembering correctly, when we get to March, we're going to be talking about staying home. And we have some expert speakers that are coming up for that as well.
That's right. We've got a great panel that covers home care to private duty home care to hospice.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really, good information.
And, like last year, so it's continuing the series. Like last year, Tracy, I remember you gave a great talk about the top 5 reasons why seniors wind up in hospitals and how to avoid letting that happen in your case.
Yes.
So the whole step by step is to get you working and thinking about your aging plan. It's low stress. It's not a sales pitch by any stretch. We're nonprofit. There's other places that are for profit. That's not what Helping Seniors is. Joe, when he put this organization together, this is 100% for the benefit of a senior. Nobody is selling anything. It is just to get information, and then you decide what's going to be the right steps for you. So I'm really excited about this. It's January 30th, right? Monday, January 30th, 10:30 to 11:30. But it's very important you RSVP, because otherwise you have to find your own lunch.
That is correct, because Jillian, who is with Chefs for Seniors, a wonderful Helping Seniors of Brevard sponsor, has really enthusiastically jumped on board with this particular idea. She's been shooting me all kinds of Pinterest pictures and making me really hungry. It's going to be a pretty simple lunch, but she is going to make it something else. And we're really excited because you're going to go home not only with a lunch, but information from a bunch of different sponsors of Helping Seniors of Brevard that really are focused on getting information to you that you can rely on and that you can trust, and that is going to help you formulate your own aging plan that's unique and specific to you.
Yeah, so once again, it's Monday, January 30th, so it's not next Monday, but it's the Monday after. We're going to be at Buena Vita Estates, 10:30 to 11:30, and I guess it's like going to be you said it's kind of like they've got a room for us just inside the main entrance.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You walk in the main entrance and then just kind of veer to the left. I'm sure they'll have a sign or a person or somebody there, but you just kind of veer to the left, and they said, we're going to give you our small dining room. Well, I got to tell you, if that's small, okay. It's a good size space, and I think we will grow into it quite nicely over the next couple months.
Good. Well, I'm excited to do that. So again, if you want to take home a lunch, you got to let us know, because Chef Jillian is going to work on getting fresh lunches prepared, but she's got to know you're there. So it's 321-473-7770 is the number to call. While you've got that piece of paper handy, let me give you a couple of other dates you want to keep in mind, because we are getting ready. February 3rd and February 4th and 5th, we've got some car shows. We're going to be talking about that more next week as we launch the Helping Seniors raffle. See you then.